the makeup trends for 2026 are radiant and breathable bases, statement blush, which is sometimes referred to as blush draping. I love that, I think it's gorgeous. Blurred and defined lips, Y2K and colourful eyes, favouring colour over natural glam, and also favouring chrome and metallic finishes. Charred eyeliner, which is basically just smudged eyeliner, but gorgeous. And enhanced lashes. What relevance does this have, you might be asking? Well, I seem to think that it's a little bit familiar. The 1960s, to be precise. If you haven't guessed already, I think the makeup trends that are going on this year are definitely very similar to the 1960s mod generation makeup. Now, what is the 1960s mod generation? Because you might not know, and that's okay. I'm here to tell you. The 1960s mod generation, also known as modernists, were a group of young British individuals who were heavily interested in music, fashion and trends. Now, when I think of this particular community in this particular time, I instantly think of like geometric shapes, bold colours, pastel shades but still bold, and graphic eyeliner. That is the image I have in my head. For females, then beautiful headbands and the geometric earrings. Women often wore things like mini skirts, bold colours and pop art inspired items. The term mod originated in London, where a group of teenagers used their spare money to acquire scooters, fancy suits. They hung out at nightclubs to show that they were far different to these old-fashioned and, quite frankly, boring other members of society. They were trying to separate themselves from how strict everybody else in the world seemed to be at that time. Very, you have to do this way, and any other way is wrong. They wanted to stray away from that and build a community of colour, self-expression, freedom. So in today's history of makeup video, I am going to do some 1960s inspired makeup with a Tiarney twist. And what is that Tiarney twist? It's just rainbow colours, okay? It's rainbow colours. So I'm thinking instead of doing just one shade all over my eyelids, I'm going to do a bit of a gradient rainbow look, complete with some 1960s finishing touches. So let's begin, honey. To start with, I am using the Plouise base, eyeshadow base in shade 2, 4, 2, 3, let me see, shade 2.5. We're just going to prime his eyelids with this. I feel this is the best thing that I have used ever in terms of eyeshadow base, because the eyeshadow itself sticks to it perfectly. It's not patchy and horrible, and the colour payoff, oh honey, oh honey, you'll see for yourself, but it's amazing. You're not going to get this same payoff not using a base or even using any other base, in my opinion. But I am no professional, I just like doing my makeup. So in terms of like fashion in the 1960s, it was youthful and rebellious. And it was like this because it was a mod generation's way of kind of rebelling against the conservative and traditional clothing choices of people around that time, such as their mums and their dads and just every other person in their lives probably before that point. Men wore suits made from something called mohair. I'm not actually sure what this is, if I'm honest. It could be anything. I should have really researched that before doing this video, but I didn't, so here we are. And in post-production I'll find out what it is and add a little definition here. But, you know, at the time of filming this video, I have absolutely no idea. So I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can do now. I could quite easily just Google it on my phone, but that's far too easy. So men wore suits with lapels and high buttoned jackets. And these were all heavily inspired by Italian tailoring, of course. Would it be any other way? Would it be any other way? The designer Mary Quant popularised miniskirts and short shift dresses, and these ended up becoming symbols of liberation, energy and youth. They often focused on comfort and movement over like style primarily, but the designs were said to be minimalist, sharp and futuristic. They'd often feature bold, simple shapes like polka dots, stripes and optical patterns, which back then was revolutionary. It was something they'd never seen before really, especially in terms of clothing. The 1960s modernist movement is a pivotal time in history, like seriously. It's when people started getting real creativity, I feel. And this is because it's the first time that makeup truly became experimental. Not just doing some simple natural glam, not just red lips and eyeliner, real experimental makeup. Creativity, bold colours, geometric shapes, graphic liner, twiggy lashes, which we're going to go into in a bit. And this is because the younger generation didn't want to be like the parents. They didn't want to be wearing the same makeup looks. They didn't want to live in a world where everybody looks the same when they put the makeup on. They wanted to live in a world where everyone looked different and you could see individuality and how unique somebody is through the makeup that they apply. And honestly, we have a lot to thank the 1960s mod generation for, because without this, times would be so different, makeup would be so different. I don't even think Instagram would be a thing. And now it might be a thing because people post more than just makeup on there. But I feel it'd be very different. Life would just be, it'd be boring. It'd be like a school where everybody's wearing the same thing. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in England, you have a uniform when you go to school in most schools, and everybody looks the same. It has its advantages when you're at school, but imagine living in a world like that as an adult and you look around and there's no individuality, there's no creativity, there's no nothing. It's just boring and grey. We don't want that. So thank you to the mods, okay? Now let's get some eyeshadow on because I feel like I've been blending this base for far too long and I actually haven't put as much as I normally do on because I'm using pastels. So, and I just feel you don't need as much eyeshadow base when you're using pastels, on me anyway, because I don't actually know. So I think I'm gonna go for purple. Oh, here's the decision I am. I think I'm going to go for purple, going into blue, going into green. Yeah, so let's start. About 50 minutes into this video and I'm only just starting. That's... Hello, it's me. Hello. So yeah, they didn't want to look like the parents anymore. They wanted to look young and hip and pop. And of course, modern, which is something that the parents weren't really doing. They were still kind of in the 50s. Makeup in the 50s was very, very different, of course, as we know. It was all about looking like a polished adult, a calm, collected member of society, very strict, willing to follow the rules, won't step out of line. Creativity don't exist. Who's she? Like, I know I've already said it, but thank the Lord that the 1960s mod generation happened. Because, what? What? I'm all for a bit of polished makeup, but I just feel, as I've already said, it'd be the most boring place to be. We need some excitement in the world. If we don't have that, what do we have? We need to be able to express ourselves through the things we wear, the way we apply as makeup, the things we listen to, the things we watch. You know, your personality. So yeah, in the 50s, it was very much about being this polished adult who just had everything together. Nothing was wrong, you know, marital life was amazing, your kids were academically fantastic, high achieving. Still, with all that being said, very boring, in my opinion. And I'm sorry if there's anybody watching that kind of was in the 1960s and, you know, followed that very conservative makeup life, but that's not me. I'm not saying you looked horrible, it's just, you know, where's your creativity, hon? Because all of y'all are looking the same and it's just not very exciting, you know? Then the 1960s happened though, and icons like Twiggy and Mary Quant, who threw these polished makeup rules away to make way for a new doll-like aesthetic that they were ready to welcome. Everyone was sick of the natural, refined beauty of the 1950s and was so ready for something more youthful and bold, graphic, something a bit, you know, exciting, that's all they wanted, something exciting, not the same shit that everyone had been just recycling for the last decade. Let's break down the key aspects of 1960s mod makeup, starting with the cut crease. The cut crease was a revolutionary eye makeup technique that absolutely defined this era. It was characterised by a simple, sharp black line somewhere above your natural eye crease here, so it'd literally just go across like a bridge here. This created beautiful and dramatic doe eyes. This was made popular by Twiggy and Jean Shrimpton, and essentially it became a thing when modernists were rejecting the mother's ways of doing the makeup and opting for more dramatic styles that closely resembled art school dolls or pop art figures. It was the first time that teenagers, rather than designers and celebrities, dictated what trends were trending. Dictated beauty trends, making cut creases a form of social protest, which I find absolutely incredible. Again, the first of its kind. Graphic eyeliner next. Now, due to the 1960s makeup being heavily defined by bold, sharp lines, geometric kind of shapes, clean lines and just general artistic boldness, it comes as no surprise that graphic eyeliner had a massive part to play. This era is where people really began to be more experimental, focusing more on black and white contrasts and using thick black eyeliner to create the sharpest wings. Little fun fact, eyeliner was commonly applied so that the wing extended significantly past the end of your eyebrow here. So they'd obviously do the eyeliner but have the wing coming right out to the end here, right past the end of your brow. Then white eyeliner was applied to your lower waterline to make your eyes appear larger, more awake. And that's where the doe eyes comes in. That is what we know today to be doe eyes. Again, the first of its kind back in the 1960s. Trends are literally just that, trends on a cycle. Totally forgot to say when I started this video, but for the eyeshadow I am using the Plouise AM to PM palette. I love Plouise, don't come for me, okay? I just love it. So in the early 1960s, which we will refer to as the transition period between 1950 and 1960, the mod generation focused on an elegant winged liner. As we approached the mid-60s, which we'll refer to as the height of mod makeup, we had heavy artistic graphic liner and bright pastel eyeshadows. Kind of like what I was going for here, but for some reason the greens turned out like yellow, kind of. It is what it is, okay? You know, colour theory, and obviously I didn't take that into consideration when I was planning this, but here we are. Alright, okay. So as we approached the late 1960s, we transitioned into a more natural, hippie aesthetic. But dramatic eyeliner still remained incredibly popular. And still is today amongst so many other people. Like, I follow so many people on Instagram who just understand the assignment when it comes to graphic liner. Some amazingly talented people. And a lot of the time I look at their looks and I think, how are you keeping your hands so still doing this? Alice King, if you don't know, get to know. If you haven't got her on Instagram or YouTube, go follow her. She's amazing. Amazing. Like, her attention to detail, the precision, everything, 10 out of 10. I'm actually obsessed. Obsessed. So I think with this green here, I'm just going to try and keep it kind of like that. So it's kind of a overly blend. I don't know what's going on today. I've already done my makeup once for a rainbow makeup tutorial, and apparently I can only do one thing a day, so where makeup's concerned anyway, because I'm not loving it so far. But I mean, 1960s makeup isn't really my style anyway, so I'm not gonna hate myself for it. It's just a bit of fun. God. This is why I stopped doing tutorials, because for some reason I can't film tutorials on this camera because it doesn't focus properly. Ugh. Ugh. Don't know why it happens all the time, but it fucking annoys me. Actually really annoys me. Almost the bane of my existence. You're having a laugh. If this goes out of focus one more damn time, I'm logging off. I'm quitting. It'll be game over. I should have plucked my eyebrows first too, because that certainly isn't helping me feel great. But who's anybody to tell me that I need to pluck my eyebrows? If I want to grow them, I'll grow them, okay. Okay. Eye makeup done. For foundations, I am mixing the Made by Mitchell Sheer Skin Tint in shade TT5 with the NYX Make and Wonder foundation in shade 10, also known as Nude. This is actually my favourite combo at the moment, mainly because I can mix them to make my, you know, actual skin tone. So now we're moving on to Twiggy lashes, which is arguably the most iconic part of mod makeup. And why is that? Let's have a look. Named after the iconic model, these were heavy, dramatic lashes that brought all the drama. But I feel like the 60s did. As I say, it was the first time people really started to get experimental with makeup, and it shows. It really shows. But the term twiggy lashes really came from what was going on the lower lashes, lower lash line. Twiggy was dubbed the face of 1966, and it's evident why. Her signature look was inspired by childhood dolls, which I think is really cute, and it's definitely where a lot of the inspiration for other people came from too, in terms of like wanting doe eyes, that doll-like aesthetic, things like that. At age 15, Twiggy had actually perfected her makeup routine, which took 90 minutes. Back then, I feel like that would have been a crazy amount of time to be spending on your makeup. Primarily because doing your makeup wasn't kind of like... I feel like doing your makeup wasn't as like socially acceptable as it is now back then. Just because I feel, anyway, in my opinion, that it would have been seen as quite superficial. And like, you know, oh my god, she's obsessed with the makeup and nothing else. She's obsessed with the way she looks and nothing else. How can she be a good wife and a good mother when she's doing her makeup? God forbid. I feel like it were like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But to be honest, it's not often that I am. Okay, so Do with that information what you will. Made by Mitchell Beauty Balm in BB5. So yeah, her beauty routine, her makeup routine took 90 minutes. And it involved stacking multiple false lashes and using white eyeliner in the lower lash line, like I was saying earlier, to create that doe eye appearance. So the term twiggies came onto the scene when Twiggy used to wear these stacked false lashes, and then on the bottom she would draw these literal twigs. So she'd draw her eyelashes on the bottom with black eyeliner. This defined the mod beauty era with their doll-like and spiky lashes. And again, it was a rebellion against traditional, refined glamour. And it actually became Twiggy's trademark. And due to this absolutely revolutionary form of self-expression, it caused a surge in popularity for fake eyelashes in the 60s. Where over 20 million pairs of eyelashes were sold over this decade. How unreal. All because of Twiggy. You go girl. You go girl. Eyeshadow next. Pale eyes specifically. But first I am just going to quickly finish my makeup because I've run out of time. I've left it too late again. I've spent far too much time procrastinating. Then it's taken however long it's taken to film this and do my makeup, and now I have to leave. I actually have to leave in about 5 minutes, but you know me, I'm going to be late. It is what it is, okay? I'm just letting you know. Don't be alarmed, it's not a jump scare. Here I am, back with the finished look. I have used a Fwee pudding pot in shade Lyrics off of my lips because obviously to represent the blurred lip that they usually went for in the 60s. And then I've tried to do the twiggy lashes, but as you can see I failed. But I've still got my little crease line. But eyeshadows were typically pastel colours like lavender, blue, white, and these colours were specifically chosen because they would contrast amazingly with their graphic liner. Pale eyes were popular during this time for the youthful, wide-eyed appearance that they gave you, and of course that doll-like aesthetic, which is again a direct rebellion against the just boring, natural, refined beauty that their mums knew. I feel like in a way it kind of came from people wanting to stay in that childlike mindset as well, where everything's easy and happy. Because this look definitely screams not immaturity, but being a child and being able to have fun with things that adults kind of forget about as you get older. And that to me is amazing. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and it's something we need to keep. Childish without being immature, if you know what I mean. Anyway, that is all for today because I am really out of time. I do want to do a more detailed video on general 1960s fashion, makeup, lifestyle. So if that is something that you'd be interested in, and a bit of a more in-depth, detailed, prettier mod makeup look, then please do let me know in the comments because as always I am interested to know what kind of content you want to see. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if this channel is your vibe. Love you. Bye.